Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and we are back. I'm shooting my first video again since coming back from break. So, hello, welcome, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow at Yeehaw Day, but that's not why we're here today. Today, I wanted to give an update on the writers' strike, which I mentioned a couple weeks ago in a Saturday video. I'll recover that briefly before getting into the update. And then I wanted to cover a little bit more of book banning stuff because obviously I'm still reading banned books here, but there are also some overseas, and just wanna bring some attention and see what you guys think about various book banning topics. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. Number one way to be featured is through Lamwai, the monthly prompt writing contest where I give you a prompt, you write a short story or a fragment that relates to the prompt, and then the first Monday video of the month, we read a couple of them together and bask in the creativity of this community. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or books coming out, just submit the first chapter and the cover. They'll be read here on the channel at some point. I just, they get picked randomly, and it goes up when it goes up. And hopefully that'll help more readers find your work, because that is the hardest part after getting your book done. And then the third thing is if you would like to check out any of my books, they are available at any of your favorite retailers or at your library upon request. I hope that you check out, enjoy, look forward to the next one, Bodymore 3, coming out this October. With that said, let's get into the topic. So the first one that I wanted to discuss is the current writer's strike going on. I meant to cover this like last week, but I had the other thing to cover last week and I had limited time. That is honestly why I've moved to doing 3 videos, because there's just so much to talk about all the time. But in case you didn't know, a couple weeks ago, the Writers Guild of America went on strike because of trying to negotiate a better deal for writers in the Writers Guild, which had to do with pay, which had to do with guaranteed hours or guaranteed time hired, and that also had to do with blocking AI generative text from being part of what would be produced or being allowed to be produced. I think the AI generated text is the strongest argument that they had, but obviously everybody is wanting more money because inflation is out the roof. I know that I have not had an income that has kept up with inflation, and let me just tell you, it is difficult. I keep thinking I'm gonna get ahead, and if I just work hard enough, nope. The destruction of livelihood is easily outpacing what I can do from my position. But so 2 weeks ago, the Actors Guild of America also has joined the strike on the picket lines. SAG-AFTRA announced Thursday that it is on strike against the film and TV companies, marking only the second time in Hollywood history that actors have joined writers on the picket line. The SAG-AFTRA National Board held a meeting on Thursday morning and voted unanimously to approve the strike recommendation forwarded by the negotiation committee. Duncan Cabtree Ireland, chief negotiator of SAG-AFTRA, said during a press conference, quote, "Union members should withhold their labor until a fair contract can be achieved." He told the room of SAG actors and journalists, "They have left us with no alternatives." The strike begins at midnight on Friday, and picketing will start Friday morning. According to the guidelines, SAG-AFTRA members will not be able to attend premieres, do interviews for completed work, or go to award ceremonies, attend film festivals, or even promote projects on social media while the strike is in effect. Quote, "We are being victimized by very greedy enterprise," SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher said during Thursday's press conference. "At some point, you have to say, no, we are not going to take this anymore. You people are crazy. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" In her impassioned plea, she argued that streaming and artificial intelligence have upended the entertainment industry's business model. But she continued, the SAG-AFTRA contracts haven't been updated to reflect those advancements. If we don't stand tall right now, we are all going to be in jeopardy. You cannot change the business model as much as it has been changed and not expect the contract to change too. I cannot believe how the studios plead poverty, that they are losing money left and right when they give hundreds of millions to their CEOs. It's disgusting. Shame on them. The union's contract expires at midnight Wednesday, after having been extended through July 12, and a month of negotiations resulted in little progress on a host of issues. SAG-AFTRA has emphasized the role of artificial intelligence in the transition to streaming in explaining the need for work stoppage. The Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, which presented the studios, argues it's presented a deal that offered historic pay and residual increases, substantially higher caps on pension and health contributions, audition protections, shortened series option periods, and a groundbreaking AI proposal that protects actors' digital likeness for SAG-AFTRA members. A strike is certainly not the outcome we hope for, as studios cannot operate without performers that bring on TV shows and films to life. The AMPTP said in a statement after the strike was confirmed, the union has regrettably chosen a path that will lead to the financial hardship for countless thousands of people who depend on the industry. In response to the AMPTP statement, Crabtree Ireland said at the press conference, if you think that this is a historic proposal, think again. All productions under SAG-AFTRA TV and film contracts will immediately halt, bringing projects to a standstill both in U.S. and around the globe. The strike is the first under the performers' film and TV contracts since 1980. The only previous double strike involving both actors and writers came in 1960 when the Screen Actors Guild was led by Ronald Reagan. In that strike, both the writers and actors were wrestling with compensation issues arising from the dawn of television. Together, they won residuals for TV reruns and for broadcast of film on TV and established the first pension and welfare plan. This time around, both unions are battling the rise of streaming TV, which they say has suppressed wages and made it difficult for middle-class creators to sustain a career. Both unions have also taken aim at AI, which they fear studios will use to further devalue their work and perhaps replace them altogether. In a statement, WGA says that it stands solidly behind our union's siblings in SAG-AFTRA as they begin their work stoppage. The last time both of our unions struck at the same time, actors and writers won landmark provisions that we all continue to benefit from today: residuals and pensions and health care funds. The WGA Negotiation Committee said in a statement. The AMPTP said that it was disappointed that SAG-AFTRA had walked away from the table and rejected an agreement that provided significant wage increases and protections against AI. The streamers have refused the key demand of both unions, however, to share streaming viewership data and pay creators more for high-performing shows. Which you should be paid for your high-performing shows. If your show does well, yeah, you should be paid for it. One of the other things that I saw coming up was that the studios wanted to pay background characters once to capture their likeness, and then they could use their likeness in any show ever going forward without ever paying that extra again. That is a violation to like the highest degree. There are no residuals, no nothing. You know, when you use something like that in any other situation, you have to pay a licensing fee. But the Hollywood is so greedy that it wants to take everything it can and only pay for the CEOs and screw everybody else. Hollywood needs to be taken down a peg. And honestly, if the Actors Guild and the writers are both on strike and there's nothing new coming out next year from Hollywood, that just means that there is a hole in the market specifically for Hollywood to be replaced by off mainstream production companies that don't follow these rules. It's time for something new, and we're not missing anything by not having Hollywood not produce things, since majority of what they're producing now are remakes and sequels and remakes. So like, it's a chance for something else to be created in the wake and take these down, because the CEOs are incredibly greedy. The other thing that I saw for this was that the studios were saying they're okay with starving the writers and getting them kicked out of their homes and made cold and hungry and starving in order to get them to submit. So these executives are bloodthirsty. It's not a good place to be, and it's obvious they don't care about who they've been using to create their work all of this time. So let me know what you think on this. Have you heard anything else? Where do you stand on the Actors Guild strike and the Writers Guild strike? I think Hollywood is a monster that's out of control, and this just proves it, because they're turning on everyone that they can so that their CEOs can stay at the top of everything and they can subjugate everybody underneath them. Not every actor or writer makes the top dollar, just a couple of people. And so this is just another way to increase that economic separation of the haves and the have-nots. And pretty much they want everyone to be a have-not. So moving on over to banned books, inappropriate books news, because that's what the rest of this video is going to be about. I have a couple of articles for that. We got a new Texas law forces vendors to rate sexual content in school books. This is from CNN. The CEO of the largest independent bookstore in Texas oversees a 4-story, 40,000 square foot space in Austin and 100 employees who staff it. Book People CEO Charlie Rejsek said that she has time to read about 30 books a year, but doesn't have time to read and rate the thousands of books that she might sell to a school, nor does she have the money to pay someone else to. But a new Texas law might require her to. Book vendors selling to Texas public schools, ranging from national sellers like Amazon to local bookstores with 8 employees, must now rate all of the books they sell based on sexual content, according to new legislation signed into law on June 12th. I'm like, why is this such an issue when literally every movie that gets produced has to be rated based on sexual content? Why is it such an issue to do that for books? And people are throwing fits about doing that for books. If the book vendor fails to comply with state library standards that will be in place January 1st, 2024, they'd be barred from selling to Texas schools. That's fair. You're selling sexual content to schools without either checking it or pretending to be ignorant. Quote, we're losing all school business forever. That's how it's going to hurt us, Rejsek said. The law's primary author, Republican Texas State Rep Jared Patterson, said its aim is simple: get sexually explicit content out of schools. Look, that's why I do the series, or I've been doing the series on banned books, at least according to the ALA, because yeah, not everybody has the time to put hours into reading these books to see what's actually in them. So then that's why I break down the entirety of the book to tell you what is in the book so you can make your own judgments. Because yeah, especially if you're working, it's hard to be able to get the time in to read a lot of books. But that's also not an excuse if your business is selling books and then you're also selling books to children. You need to know what you're selling to schools. But the burden of rating these books falls on the book vendors. If you don't want it to be on the book vendors, then you need to put it on the publishers and then punish the publishers for false advertising of books. But something has to be done because books are not following age appropriateness, period. Vendors told CNN this makes complying impossible. We've never rated books ever, Rejsek said. We have no training. Patterson said he disagrees. Ultimately, it's the vendor's job to rate books appropriately, he said. Quote, I don't care if you're a small business or a big business. If you're selling something that's going to be in the hands of children, you should know whether or not it's safe for that child to consume. The book vendor is the one with the financial relationship with the school district, and so they're the ones that can most easily be held accountable for this. Under the Restricting Explicit and Adult Designated Educational Resources Act, or the Reader Act, vendors that sell books to Texas public schools must assign every title that describes or portrays sexual conduct one of 2 labels: sexually explicit or sexually relevant. The law defines sexually explicit books as those containing sexual content that is patently offensive, explained in the law states as anything that affronts current community standards of decency. These books will be banned from school campuses. The law says that sexually relevant books depict sexual conduct, but not necessarily in a way that is patently offensive. Students will need a parent's written consent to check one out. I don't see the problem with this. Shirley Robinson is the executive director of the Texas Library Association with more than 5,000 members across the state. She calls the definitions very vague. You know, you'd think that members of the Library Association could be part of like, hey, we're going to rate these. And then if something goes wrong, because obviously it just said, what, 5,000 members, more than 5,000 members across the state. So help rate the books. And then if something goes wrong with the stores because the books were rated inappropriately, you can go back to the Library Association who didn't do their job. Quote, what might be sexually relevant to one vendor could be sexually explicit to another, and yet another vendor may not feel like that book needs to be rated in either of those categories, Robinson said. Using the word vendor is where the whole bill went wrong, said Ben Kahn, president of the Educational Book and Media Association. The following could all be considered vendors under the Reader Act, according to Kahn, as they sell books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, a publisher like Penguin Random House, a wholesaler like Kahn's Classroom Library Company, and an independent bookstore like Book People. Quote, they've encapsulated the whole entire industry, Kahn said. That would be like to say Paramount's going to come out with a movie and every individual movie theater could go ahead and rate the movie differently. It just makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, it's going to be a step forward because otherwise we need nationwide association ratings, which should have already been in place with saying stuff is YA, but then, you know, y'all got sexually addicted 30-year-old women selling fanfic smut to children and themselves have taken over YA. The 31 book wholesaler that Khan advises as president has brought in over 200 million in educational book sales in Texas over the past 3 years. Khan called the law groundbreaking in that the book industry wasn't considered at all. Maybe be checking what your books. I'm just hearing a lot of excuses for not going through the books and understanding or marking what is sexually explicit. It's not that hard. I've done what, like 10, 11 books now on my channel, and I can just say, this is sexually explicit. You might be like, oh, my personal values don't see a problem with that, but you have to look at the greater picture. It's not about you. It's about what is the greater picture of what counts as sexually explicit. Patterson, the law's primary author, told CNN he views the issue as a matter of responsibility. Quote, if you can't determine if what you're selling is going to harm children or not, then maybe you shouldn't be selling into Texas school districts. True. I don't see a problem with that statement. But the question many vendors are grappling with is not if sexually explicit content should be in schools, but how to go about getting rid of it. This law, they say, is not the answer. In a letter written to members of the Texas Senate Committee on Education in May, Khan agreed that inappropriate content has no place in children's hands. But he recommended the bill be amended to establish one rating entity, which would prevent conflicting ratings and take the liability off of vendors' shoulders. The idea didn't gain traction. Patterson said he believes capitalism is the path forward here, and that financially, vendors have the incentives to figure this out. Robinson said that she worries that the unwanted responsibility could be disincentive. Quote, this bill is going to put a tremendous burden on those vendors, Robinson said. Some may make the decision to no longer sell to Texas schools, which is not good for business. Question. Are they really going to stop selling when they have, what, over 200 million in educational books? I don't think that it's going to stop them from selling. Texas is home to nearly 9,000 public schools and roughly 300 independent bookstores. Valerie Kohler, owner of the Blue Willow Bookshop in Houston, estimates about 25% of her business comes from partnering with 18 to 20 local schools. Kohler said that she doesn't read all of the books that her store carries, especially because some purchase orders include books that she has never had in the bookstore before. It's very vague at best as to what we're supposed to be doing. Certainly, we can't read everything. Kohler worries that the law may take time away from her and her employees interacting with customers, whether that be local teachers looking for a new addition to the classroom library or a 10-year-old kid who's excited about the next book in a series. To see them get excited about a book, that's why we're doing this. This feels like emotional manipulation. I'm like, think of the children's smiles when they're in the class. Part of your job is knowing what is in these books that you're selling specifically to schools. You don't have to know what's in every single book, but at least do a bare minimum research. Richard Bailey, the school liaison for Interbang Books in Dallas, arranges author visits, book drives, book fairs for Dallas County schools. He wrote a letter to Governor Greg Abbott in May to protest the Reader Act, also known as HB 900. Bailey expressed concern that contested books could be removed from libraries and classrooms for an undetermined period of time while review was underway. Quote, it is ridiculous to think that there is a cabal within the community of booksellers and educators who work under cover of darkness to present sexually explicit materials to young children. That is absolutely provably wrong, and I can show you why. I will talk about it more when I come to do Flamer, because I've actually already read the comic book Flamer. It is on the 2022 banned books list or challenged books list. And here you have the author saying that it is not in grade schools. It is not presenting inappropriate materials. And I can tell you that there are sexual references in there. It says fuck more times than you can imagine. And saying fuck more than once is enough to get something an R rating if it's a movie. So how is it that this book says all of the F words and it is in grade schools? Provably in grade schools. They say that there is no cabal. Maybe there is not a cabal, but there are individuals that are going out there lying about the content that they are pushing into schools, including the authors of some of these very books. So, like, don't play that game with me. Can we at least be honest that people are pushing inappropriate books into places that they shouldn't be? Intrabang Books and Nowhere Bookshop in San Antonio both offer educator discounts to help support their communities. At Nowhere Bookshop, educator discount starts at 20%, but can go up to 40% if schools buy multiple copies of a book. Quote, our margins are already so thin on these deals. Elizabeth Jordan, manager of Nowhere Bookshop, said, if we add another layer of labor or another layer of some sort of vendor that has to do this reviewing for us, then it does not make financial sense for us to continue. Patterson told CNN the law is a model legislation for the rest of the country. Jordan said it has the potential to harm children's education. Quote, I am tired of people saying parent choice and not giving me a choice as a parent. You can't choose for all of the students. Jordan, who is a mother of 2 children in Texas public school, said, I am mostly concerned that my kids are not going to have the best, most diverse libraries available to them because of the very vocal minority of parents. You can still get these books for your children. It's not stopping you from making the choice yourself, my dude. It is unclear in the law whether books containing innuendo or suggestive dialogue may fall under sexually relevant, in which case even a high school student would need a parent's written permission to check them out. Nor is it clear whether a book contested by a parent for an inaccurate rating will be removed from the school libraries while Texas education agencies review its content. The law also applies retroactively to books sold to schools in the past, meaning that vendors must issue recalls for sexually explicit books still in circulation. But booksellers often lack the knowledge of what books are still in circulation at schools and what consumers use their books for. For example, a vendor doesn't know whether a customer buys a book for themselves or if they're an educator for their classroom libraries. Jordan said she can't imagine having to ask. Quote, the fact that no book vendor really understands the ramifications of our liability when things go into effect, there's just going to be fewer books in the school, which is not good for anyone. That is not correct. Because not every book needs to be available in school. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. Because you don't need pornography in school, and that's a book. You don't need Chuck Tingle in school. You don't need Might Makes Right in school. You don't need the manifesto of serial killers, of school shooters, of anybody in school. There are certain things that you don't need in school. And this idea that everybody having the max amount of books in any school, every school, even for 4th graders who don't necessarily have a handle on what is reality yet, you're still teaching them and they're still sponges, is insanely incorrect, and it's manipulative. More books is not necessarily a good thing if you don't know how to discern and analyze the content. Not every book is for every person or every age group. That's why age group categories exist. So I cannot stand, and I do not understand, why people make this argument that every book needs to be in school or else it is bad. Except when it is a malicious intent. Except when there is a malicious intent behind it. That's the only way that I can understand this. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Following this, in case you think that this is all just going one way, Leon schools told to ban the Bible, citing Moms for Liberty's efforts. This is also not the first time that the Bible has been challenged in schools. Obviously, it's been challenged everywhere, and it was also on the ALA's 2015 list of most challenged books. The Freedom from Religion Foundation, which describes itself as a non-theistic nonprofit, is giving Leon County school districts an ultimatum: ban the Bible or stop banning books altogether. So this is a threat, and not really what you want to do if you want to be considered a good guy, because that shows that you're doing stuff in bad faith and you're blackmailing people. In an email, either challenge the book specifically because you actually object to the content, or don't. But don't be like, hey, stop banning my books, or I'm going to come to ban yours, because that is bad faith. It is also obviously vengeance. In an email sent to school board members on July 14th, Freedom from Religion Foundation piled onto a recent successful effort by the local chapter of conservative group Moms for Liberty to pull 5 books found in the Leon County High School. I want to see what books those were. Have I read them? Oh, boys. Let's see. Doomed, Dead End, Lucky, Push, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. I think that's the second one in this series. I read the first of Chuck Palahniuk's book, In Hell. Dead End, Jason Meyer, a fiction book following 2 love-struck teenagers who flee their hometown after shooting, killing a rapist in self-defense. Lucky, a memoir about how the author's life changed after she was raped at 18 years old. Push by Sapphire, a fictional book about a teenager who has 2 children and HIV from a father who raped her. The award-winning book. Why do we need so many books about rape and incest? That is my question. Because, like, the number of books on these lists that are like, oh, these need to be given to children with rape and incest in them is insane. What do you think is behind all of these books having rape and incest? I don't think that those are necessary to, expose to children. But what do I know? Quote, we are disturbed that the district has chosen to start removing books from school libraries based on content taken out of context at the request of extremist groups like Moms for Liberty. Look, I also hate the for context thing, because It doesn't matter. If it's inappropriate content, regardless of the greater context, that makes it so you can't present that content to the audience as a whole. Like, Sesame Street is fine for children, unless you have the count up there, counting penises on the screen. The greater context doesn't matter if the content itself is inappropriate. Following the prodding from Moms for Liberty Leon chapter, Leon County School Superintendent Rocky Hanna announced on July 10th that 5 books would be removed from the high school libraries. Of these 468,000 plus books that we have on our current catalog, if we come across those that we deem a violation of state statute, we will remove them immediately. These are black and white, cut and dry, need to be removed. The 5 books were not removed in a formal hearing process. Instead, they were reviewed by Hanna and removed without a hearing from members of the public. Quote, "We don't believe any books should be banned, including the Bible," Line told the Tallahassee Democrat in an interview. "In cases like this, where a school district appears to be using a footpath to discriminate, we demand that they apply that equally across the board to all books that have sexually explicit content, including the Bible." Freedom from Religion says the Bible should be banned based on the same reasoning Moms for Liberty presented their request for sexually explicit content. "We write to request that the district either ban the Bible based solely on the criterion of sexually explicit content it has used to ban these books, or cease banning books and return the banned books to the school shelves." The chair of the Leon County Moms for Liberty chapter is not surprised by the Freedom from Religion's request. "Those who would prematurely sexualize our people's children in schools also do not want children exposed to the Bible." Priscilla West told the Tallahassee Democrat, "I don't see LCS board members taking a stand to remove the Bible from school libraries, but even if they did, would it make any difference in the children's daily educational experience? Happily, in this country, the Bible would still be widely available outside of schools to all of those who choose to enrich themselves with its wisdom." I mean, honestly, if people vote to have it removed and then the school district wants it removed, that's how it goes. Leon County School District spokesperson Chris Petley told the Tallahassee Democrat on Monday that no comment would be available on the matter until the board reviews the request. The next school board meeting will be 2 p.m. July 24th to discuss the first official book challenge hearing of I Am Billie Jean King by Brad Metzer. Not the Bible's first challenge. Yeah, like I said, it's been on the list. And then finally, something from across the pond. A little further than across the pond, because it's Australia. A controversial sex book pulled from Big W shelves after staff abused. A controversial book that aims to educate teenagers about sex in a frank and age-appropriate manner. Somehow I doubt this second part. Was written in response to genuine questions from adolescents. The book publisher has said as it's pulled from the shelves, "Welcome to Sex, your no silly questions guide to sexuality, pleasure, and figuring it out." Written by Melissa Kang of Dolly Doctor and TV personality Yumi Steins, it generated mixed reactions from parents this week over the book's honest depictions of sex. Though marketed toward 12 to 15-year-olds, many of whom studies indicate are already conducting their own research into the topic, some have claimed that the context is far too graphic for the demographic. You got some pictures here. I am sorry, I don't trust strangers to talk to children about sex. Topics like masturbation, safe sex, consent, awkward sex moments, gender identity, and sexual positions are all touched on in this book, which is being stocked by major Aussie retailers such as Dymox, Big W, and Target. Yesterday, Big W defended the book's age-appropriate and inclusive content, noting parents can make their own decisions on what is appropriate for their family. However, today, the Woolworths-owned store had to pull the books from the shelves after staff faced abuse. We know there has been a wide range of views about this book. However, it's disappointing that there have been multiple incidents of abuse directed at our store team members in the past 24 hours, Big W spokesperson told nnews.com.au. To keep our team and customers safe, the book will be available to customers online only from later today. Critics have argued that some of the themes mentioned, particularly the hand-drawn illustrations, bordered on pornography. See, and this is also what matters, is you can say, hey, here's the whole thing that the idea behind makes sense. However, then you insert things that don't need to be there, that take it to the next level of explicitness, that actually make it so the book itself cannot be used in any sort of way because it is too explicit or it is pornographic. And this reminds me of... Charlie/Moist Critical talked about this a little while ago too, is there was a whole scam running on YouTube, and it has been running on YouTube, where they're putting pornographic materials on YouTube, different creators, and calling it educational, which is how they're getting around the censors, but it is clearly pornographic. Others have taken issue with comments Stein's made about mature 8-year-olds being able to read the book. Yeah, there's no such thing as a mature 8-year-old for sex. Just as when we were reading Beyond Magenta, and that there was somebody in there that was like mature 6-year-old who was giving blowjobs. There's no such thing. That's a sexually abused child. If you are saying a mature 8-year-old with sex, you're a predator. Or a predator enabler. The book synopsis states it's targeted at 12 to 15-year-olds. According to 2019 report from the Australian Institute of Families, a total of 53% of boys and 14% of girls intentionally viewed pornography before the age of 16. The average age of those, so not even a majority of girls and barely a majority of boys before the age of 16. The average age of those viewing pornography, the study suggests, was 13 for boys and between 16 and 17 for girls. So again, you don't need to be exposing 12, 8-year-olds to this content. Responding to criticism, experts have said that sex education books have existed for decades and teenagers are better off learning information about sex through progressive books rather than other unregulated platforms. No! Why? This is also not regulated when you're just continually pushing it forward and you're not taking any consideration to what is actually appropriate. You're just saying, let's write pornography and present it to children. One such expert is Justin Coulson, who yesterday branded the negative critiques as a storm in a teacup, given children will eventually start to ask these questions. That doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you thrust this stuff in front of them. Yes, people will eventually start to ask questions. Not until 16 to 17 for most girls. Just go to your parents to ask questions or your friends to ask questions. We've been doing this since the dawn of man. Nobody needs a stranger drawing a pornographic book to explain sex to kids in whatever weird way this is. Not to mention, yeah, oh, look at all of the penises. You're not even allowed to have this kind of stuff on display out in front of children. What are you talking about? They can find out in the playground with Google, or they can find out with reputable experts who have written sensitively worded text to help them understand. But you're the one calling them experts. You're selling the book and you're calling yourself an expert. Would you trust me if I said I'm an expert on something? Probably not. With a parent guiding the process as well. Books based on genuine questions from young people. Speaking to 9 News, the book manufacturer, Hardy Grant Publishing, said that it was proud to be a publisher of Welcome to Sex, an education and age-appropriate guide for tween and teens and their parents about sex and sexuality. Welcome to Sex was developed in response to genuine questions about sex from adolescents to Dolly Doctor over a 20-year period. Brown explained that young people had been comprehensively interviewed in addition to youth experts over the issue facing them, particularly in an online world. Every young person develops at their own rate, and parents and caregivers are encouraged to make their own decisions about what is appropriate to share with the family. Buying this book is a positive choice for parents and teens who are looking for guidance on a subject of genuine importance. We have published it for an audience who want the option. Welcome to Sex is the 4th book in the co-author's award-winning best-selling Welcome to series, which includes other topics such as consent and menstruation. The series has sold successfully worldwide and is designed to support parents as they navigate these conversations, as well as being valuable curate resources for young people who will otherwise search the internet for answers to their inevitable questions. So there's that. I also pulled this up if we wanted to take a look inside for what is on Amazon. Why does she have a nose like that? Why do they always draw the most ugly art for all? Like, what the frick is this? It should be noted, like, Flamer has ugly art, Genderqueer has ugly art. They don't even try. They basically almost have penis noses, let's be honest. What is sex? Parents and carers and awkward conversations, getting intimate with myself. I mean, it's weird enough when you have some random adult somewhere guiding a child into how to masturbate. Orgasms, labels, sexual and gender identities. Labels aren't important, but let's make every book about fucking labels. What the outside world is telling us about sex. Why do I have a feeling that this is going to be insanely biased? Myths, because nobody repeats the ideas that I have about sex. I never hear anybody talk about sex in the emotional and spiritual combination of two souls, in it being something very spiritual and very intimate and very special. Nobody ever talks about it like that. Especially not in these books. Myths about sex. Reasons to not have sex. I feel like that's going to also be very biased. How it begins. Feelings, flirting, and falling in love. What can actually happen with another person? Wobbly starts. Relationships. Looking after myself and my partner. Pregnancy lowdown. More sex myths. Awkward sex moments and other challenges. Is something wrong? Keeping safe. Having fun and remember. Expand your vocabulary. Oh no, are we going to talk about pissing again? So then we got what is sex? Sex is doing anything with your body that feels sexy. That doesn't tell you what it is. It can also be solo sex, known as masturbation. It can be touching another person's body with your hands or other parts of your body, rubbing together genitals, or kissing or touching breasts, nipples, or parts of the body that turn you both on. Doing sexy stuff on the phone or online with another person is also sex. Sex might involve being totally naked or partially or even fully clothed. For some people, emotions are part of the definition of sex. Each person's definition of sex can change depending on the circumstances and the timing. The most useful definition of sex is what sex means to you. How long is this book? 304 pages. How sexually obsessed are you that you need 304 pages to talk about sex? I just don't understand. It is a level of obsession that is so unreasonable for how many books there are written about this being pushed and sold to children specifically. But you know, I have been basically, my mind poisoned by this stuff over the last couple of months from just reading ALA books. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I've probably ranted about this enough. So with any or all of these articles, the writer's strike, which we've come very far from, somehow legislating laws for giving ratings to books in Texas, book bannings, including the Bible. I think Leon County is in Florida. And then this type of book where you've got Welcome to Sex that is focusing on 12 to 15-year-olds, but also a mature 8-year-old. Like, how do you feel about any or all of these items? Looking forward to your thoughts and the discussions down below. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend and don't die.
The only people who should come are those who want to meet their monsters.
If this is what Agatha wants, I don't know how we can even dispute it.
I change lives, baby.
And I and them. Sweetheart, no bargains hold. Only fools know restraint.
Only losers lose!
I've been under the knife so many times, I'm practically immune to it.
If your scissors are dull, may I recommend sharpening them with leather?
I think I hit you.
Mima says I must have a guardian angel.
To enter the ring but abstain from playing is suicidal. Your virtue makes you nothing but a liability.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.